Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1204, written by EXP 10510N. World War II, Supernatural Style. When I was about 11, we lived in Germany. My dad was in the army, so we lived in old houses that probably date back to World War II. Anyways, this place we stayed at in Wiesbaden gave my family no small amount of tales. The most repeated tale is a night my little brother woke up screaming. He had to have been 7 or 8 at the time. He wakes the whole house, screaming bloody murder. This is not normal behavior for him, and I honestly can't recall him ever doing it before or since, but that night he was screaming. He claims to have seen a black figure at the foot of his bed, just solid black. He says the thing just stood there, but the vibe he got wasn't "let's be friends." He said he could feel the hatred. Dad was the first to burst in, and I only found out maybe about 2 years ago that he saw the same thing just before turning the light on. Same house. My mom is home alone during the day with my other little brother, who was a baby at this time. She hears sounds in the kitchen, like a spoon scraping against a bowl, and starts going to it thinking it's my dad, who did sometimes come home for lunch. Goes into the kitchen, nothing there. And finally, the baby brother had a teddy bear that sang the Lord's Prayer when you pressed the button on his hand. My younger siblings and I were in the living room watching TV, and heard a little demon bear start its prayer from down the hallway, nowhere near us. Combined with the general sense of uneasiness that house caused, I really want to go back there someday, if only to see if what I remember is tinged by the fact that I was young, and wonder how much is just family lore that gets grandiose with time. Case notes for the file 1204, World War II, Supernatural Style. A location infused with horror and indeed anger from the atrocities committed all those decades ago, maybe indeed exactly in that spot. I can't blame the spirits left behind. What I find interesting is how they manifest to us as a darkness. Is that intentional? Or is it merely our own perception? Like the story with the man that had a dark aura around him? Maybe it's not a dark glow emitting, but rather our subconscious detecting that presence of evil and then coloring it in for us. Color itself is an abstract construct of the subconscious. It's not real, it's just based on the type of light that's emitted from the object as it bounces off of it. The structure basically determines the color. So from that we can infer that if there's light emitted from being, and there's some way the brain can process if it's good or bad or negative or positive, well, there you go. The brain can choose what color that you see, so we understand it. Gives us a warning, and I mean it makes evolutionary sense too. If you can have a way to detect if someone is good or bad, you'd want to be able to know, because that'll increase your chance of reproducing, which is what evolution cares about. Passes on those genes and other people are like that and they're more likely to survive and procreate. Simple. Case file number 1205, written by Anonymous. An impossible message on a dead phone. When I was around 9 to 10 years old, I had an old singular wireless cell phone my grandma let me play with. I liked playing Snake. It hadn't been in service for years. Eventually, the battery was so shot it wouldn't hold enough of a charge to stay powered on. One night in the summer, we had a line of pretty nasty storms roll in. I love thunderstorms during the day, but after the storms that rolled through the southeast in '02, killed 11 people in my town, any sign of thunder after dark spooked me. I was just laying down for bed as they started. I was saying my evening prayers as I always did. Of course, I was asking for protection from the storms. 5 minutes later, the cell phone came on. Then it made a ding. I looked at it, and it had a text message. It read, "I love you, and I will." I took it to my mom quickly, and had her look up the area code. Somewhere in Illinois. So I went to sleep. I didn't connect the dots in my head for a few days. My jaw dropped when I realized what happened. When digging for the phone in my mess of a room, nothing on it. My younger brother had done a factory reset on it, playing with it. Case notes for the file 1205. An impossible message on a dead phone. Oh yeah, the Snake game. I spent too many hours on that one, Pac-Man, and the one where you had to send a tank shell at an angle to destroy the enemy. And yeah, thunderstorms, they're mighty forces of nature, manifesting in great strikes of energy. If anything feels like it's designed like a system in a video game, it'd be disastrous scenarios like thunderstorms and hurricanes, maybe tornadoes. And then we have a sibling terror striking again. I do wonder if that message was sent into your mind, but wasn't truly connected to the phone. Or if it was some person that knew you and wanted to protect you, someone that passed away, just watching over you. It's a way that a spirit can connect and let you know that they're still around without being overt. Because if I was a spirit and I wanted to let someone know that I was still around, I wouldn't want it to be too obvious because they might go crazy, thinking, yeah, okay, spirits are real. Am I actually crazy? You wouldn't want to manifest to them. You want it to be more subtle, where there's a way they can opt out of believing it. Like in this case. I was very curious that the phone didn't have enough battery to be turned on, and then after this, it did. It's almost like the spirit juiced it up.
Case file number 1206, written by KRock7, The Hidden Threads of Premonition. One morning I was in my kitchen making breakfast. I had been up for about 30 minutes and didn't remember any of my dreams from the night. My mom had just left to run some errands and she phoned me, asking if I could manually close the garage door because the sensors were messed up. As soon as she started saying this, I instantly remembered that I dreamed of it happening the night before. Later that day, my buddy picked me up. We were just going to chill. He said he wanted to buy a guitar and learn how to play. He had never mentioned this before, so we went to a music store. We walked in, and there was a guy at the counter holding a ukulele. And I had an instant memory of dreaming that I was in the store and pissing around with a ukulele. There was one more event that day that, upon occurring, I immediately remembered dreaming it the night before. I still don't know how to explain it, although someone said that sometimes when a person's anxious, their soul leaves the body and travels through time throughout the night, if you believe that sort of thing.
Case notes for the file 1206, The Hidden Threads of Premonition. To dream is to let our subconscious roam the infinite plane of knowledge that permeates the universe, including time. That information is real, but it's so vast, and when we dream, we give our subconscious permission to explore it far deeper than through our limited human senses. One thing I do wonder is, for those of us that never remember our dreams, is that a subconscious choice that we make? I can imagine my soul in the real world having left directions for my own play experience in the simulation. So maybe I didn't want additional information. You could almost view it as selecting a difficulty setting for the game. So if you want a more relaxed experience, you select Remember All Dreams before loading in. And if you want a more hardcore experience, you go with no dream remembering at all. No supernatural events, or at least none that could help you make it easier. Anything pointing to this being more of a game and a simulation game, that's what I hope is true, even though I can't prove it.
Creepy file number 101, written by Strange, the Sinister Russian Councelor. I live near a camp that I used to attend as a child. When I was 7, there was a counselor at the camp who was Russian. The camp has a very large staff exchange program with many different countries, and very weird at that. Counselor said he was incredibly fast, and during staff-only campfires, he would catch, skin, and eat live rabbits. He could do this crazy sleeper hold move. It essentially was a strangling move that knocked you out for a few seconds. You came to and were fine a minute later. I saw him do it on a counselor once. The guy was out for about 10 seconds. He was forbidden to do it after that. However, the kids got curious and started asking him to do the move. He would do it in secret, but he would increase the severity of his holds, which in turn would keep the kid knocked out for a longer period of time. One day, a camper went missing. He wasn't in his bunk, despite going to bed with his cabin that night. They did a camp-wide search, keeping us all on the soccer field for about 2 hours. The counselors even had to start searching the water. They found his body under the sailing dock, completely out cold. He was alive, but very unconscious. He had strangle marks around his neck. Everyone knew who it was. They arrested the Russian guy and deported him back to Russia. Turns out they never even sent an exchange counselor. Nobody knew who the hell he was.
Case notes for the file 101. The Sinister Russian Councelor. Catching live rabbits? Ugh. I think my heart is too soft for that. I remember when I was 14, I was with my dad for a week in October and he took me hunting. We came across an elk, but I didn't have the stomach to shoot it. Whereas fishing I could do, I guess it feels more removed. It's not as intense as killing an elk. This kind of knockout game is extremely dangerous, by the way, just so everyone is aware. Losing consciousness isn't like in the movies. You just bop someone on the head and they wake up later, no harm, no foul. No. That almost never happens without some kind of brain damage and trauma. It's so damn wild, though, that he wasn't a counselor. How did he even infiltrate? He knew there was an exchange program for this camp and pretended to be in it. To get access to kids? Or teenagers? That's just creepy as hell. And now time for the quote of the day. If all else fails, immortality can always be assured by spectacular error. John Kenneth Galbraith. What I take this to mean is immortality is just, biological immortality, not magical where nothing can kill you, but just not aging, is potentially possible in the human body. It would be a great genetic transformation, and not really one that would perpetuate itself because it doesn't necessarily increase your chances of procreating. But if it does exist and people naturally select for it just out of curiosity, then eventually maybe the human species could evolve to be naturally immortal, biologically speaking, just not aging. Now, probably not. Probably it's going to happen through scientific innovation to cure death, the curse of death. Being able to live forever would be awesome, at least biologically speaking. You're always going to have that. And, quantum immortality is something interesting, but it doesn't fix biological death. Because if you die in all copies of every universe, well, then I guess the game resets. I want the game, this reality, to be a simulation, but I also want to live forever. Basically, I don't want to gamble that all of this is wrong and, death is just the end. That's just boring. I like life. There's too much stuff to do and learn and experience. Even if baseline is neutrality, where I'm doing the same thing again and again, that's okay. And you can relive it with other people. I've been rewatching shows, but reaction videos on YouTube, so I get the experience again. I live vicariously through other people. And you can do that in many ways with new foods and experiences you've already done, but it's just someone else that you care about or that is interesting. And you can relive the same experience. Technically speaking, maybe I have genetic code that makes me biologically immortal and I'll never age. Very, 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 very low chance of that. But who knows? You have Keanu Reeves that doesn't appear to age, or maybe a little bit. So I do hope I'm a vampire. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony, signing off.